Hello, welcome to the Craft Ice Magic YouTube channel. My name's Ellie and today I'm going to take you to Blickling Hall on our private tour. So we'd organised a trip to Blickling Hall to go and look at some of the textiles that they'd got stored up in some of the rooms away from public view. So we were really excited to go and a group of us all went. We took along Jensen and my husband came as well. This was the entrance of Blickling Hall, which most of the public can access, but we went up the stairs to some rooms to see some gorgeous carpets and wall hangings and other textiles, so I'll take you with me.
Ambassador of Russia in the late 18th century, and when he came back he was the ambassador for Britain to Queen Catherine's court, and she liked him very much. We've got lots of letters between them. How much they liked each other we don't know, but enough for her to give him this beautiful tapestry. And this is what gives it the Peter the Great room. This is the Battle of Kosovo in Sweden, and that's Peter the Great with the eagle hanging over him. There are three versions of this tapestry. Two are slightly older. If you look at the top, just at where the eagle's wings stop, you can see there's actually an extra chunk that's been sewn onto the top there. And if you look at that chunk, the warp threads are going up top to bottom. With tapestries, warp thread, which are the linen threads, the non-coloured ones, always go across. Because the way the loom works is that way you get a longer stretches, the way where you want to get a long rectangle to go along the wall, but looms could only get so wide. And the strongest threads usually you'd have going top to bottom, so that's how we know that top bit was either made especially for this, or it could have been robbed from another tapestry and then put in this, and then the frame would have been added on to make it look a bit grander. But all the little emblems around the tapestry are for different provinces in Russia. So it was made and given to the Earl when he finished, along with some gorgeous emeralds, which I'm afraid we don't have. They went with the family when they divided up what was going to the National Trust and what was coming with them. I believe they're in a museum in Japan now, so I haven't seen them personally, but they are rather gorgeous.
So Beth took us on the tour, and she's the one you heard speaking a moment ago, and she was telling us about how the ceiling sort of reflects the pattern on the carpet that is down below your feet, and that is actually the original carpet. But a lot of the carpets, like this one, are actually reprints, reproductions, so that you can actually walk on them and actually have the feeling of walking in a very grand house. This room was made with some beautiful tapestry all on every wall, and they were commissioned by the Paston family and made in London, and they were very similar to the ones they have at Hampton Court, except for there is additional borders, and there's two panels either side the one wall that are different from the one at Hampton Court. This one here with the lady being one of those additional tapestries. Here is a bit of a close-up of one of the panels, and you can see there is some stitches that you can actually see, and they're stitches that are put in after the panel is woven to secure the panel together. And you can see that because they've been hung up for such a long time, some of those stitches have sort of opened up a little bit over time, but they were fantastic. You can see here the ceilings were so intricate in all of the rooms. And this is the drawing room that we're going into now. So the main focal point that we were talking about is the carpet that's underfoot. So this is actually the original carpet that has been made for this room, and it's interesting because they've got it on the floor on display, but you're not allowed to walk on it. It's rolled up at the sides so that people aren't walking on it and causing damage to the actual panel. There's more footage of the carpet itself in a moment. See the view out of the window from one of the rooms we were visiting. It's absolutely gorgeous from the front of the property. We then moved on to one of the bedrooms, and in this room you can actually see there's one of the Norfolk shawls. Now, a shawl doesn't necessarily mean something you'd wear. It's unclear in history whether the shawl meant that you actually wore it on the body or on the bed, but behind the back panel of the bed there is one of the Norfolk shawls, one of the very earliest ones that was woven. We know that it's early because there is actually embroidery on it, whereas later productions of the Norfolk shawls were actually completely woven. We went on to a room now that had some beautiful crewel work on the bedding and on the curtains around the bed, and Beth was telling us that the crewel work is all made from wool, and the actual bedding and one of the centre hangings behind was actually replaced. The fabric behind the crewel work had been replaced, and I've just taken a shot of the gorgeous ceiling here, but the actual fabric behind the crewel work had been replaced in the 80s for that centre panel and the main bedding because it had been damaged over time. But the actual panels either side of the bed, which are a slightly more sort of creamy yellowy colour rather than the white, they were the originals. If you look really closely, it's beautifully worked. And there's some beautiful details there of leaves, and in a moment it will show you that there is actually a reindeer as well and some birds on the panels, which is beautifully worked. This is just a connecting corridor between the rooms that we visited, and we had a little bit of a peek into one of the bathrooms, which was interesting there, with all the facilities that you'd experience many years ago. Here's a close-up of those stitches I mentioned before. Because of the tapestries being hung on the wall, those stitches have stretched a little bit, but they do go and repair these when they get to a certain level of disrepair. And this tapestry was in one of the hallways that we went through.
So this is one of the pieces from our stores. This is one of my favourites. This is a cosmetic case or a toilet case. It's dated around 1660, has dribbled out, and you can see behind it they've backed it with a document. And you can see the writing, and here it's a pound sign. And the earliest date for a pound sign is 1660.
Wow.
So that's how we know this has been repaired or made at that point. We can't quite work out what it says. We think it's a bill of some kind, but that's just what we would have done. So that slots into the pocket there.
Yes, yes.
Yes, that's one of our older pieces, still in gorgeous condition.
So you keep them in acid-free paper, and then there's obviously you keep other stuff out below it as well to protect it, do you?
Yes, we do. So we use bits of plastic like this. This is just to help lift. And then we have wadding in between. And I can show you some of the pieces under this.
Do you know if they look belong to?
If it was 1660, if it was still part of the family then, given we don't know, possibly Philippa Hobart. We would have been around the 3rd or 4th Baronet of Intwood. This is just about the turn of the first. These are 1730s or around there. There's a particular fashion for bedspreads of this style to be made with a big coverlet and 4 pillowcases going big, smaller, smaller, smallest.
So this was one of my favourite pieces, this and the larger actual quilt that goes with it.
So how do we know how many people would have worked on this? It's not one, presumably.
No, you would have had maybe 2 people. We have some prints of Parisian workshops where people would work either on rollers or big stretched canvases, and so you would have had maybe 1 or 2 people, given how big this is, and they would have worked section at a time going along.
So now we're nearing the end of the tour, and we looked at full stairwells, so I thought I'd give you a little bit of glimpse of that as well. And then we came out of the main door, and we actually did the visit before it opened at all, so it was nice to have the sort of house to ourselves. And you walked out the main doors onto the beautiful driveway, and if you look to the left, that is the building that we visited next. So that was our tour finished, but there is some artworks and handcrafted items in the rooms to the left of the building. So here again is the front of the hall, and then we moved over to the rooms that are just above these buildings here, just up the stairs. Up into the handcrafted and artwork area, and I've just taken some little bits of video of some of the lovely handmade things. I would encourage you to go and have a visit to Blickling Hall. I've not filmed everything that we saw that day. It was just a bit of a glimpse of the things that you could see, and you actually could go right through most of the main house as well when you pay entry to Blickling Hall. But we actually organised a private tour for specifically textile viewing, which we really enjoyed. They also have a nice cafe there as well, which we had a cup of tea in. So they do have some nice facilities which you can go and visit as well. So there was loads of different crafts and art that are shown in this particular building, so it's definitely worth a visit. And I will leave you to look at some of the craft items that I took some video of. So thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe if you'd like to see more, and I shall see you in the next video. Bye!